reason why we have such chaos is we don't have any reasonable political discourse in this country. No dialogue, no place where you can go and talk about things. Now the community town hall meetings that these politicians are holding in August of 2009, they're getting riotous because groups are being sent in to disrupt the meetings, shout at everybody. So there's no way to carry on a dialogue when people are shouting. Same with street demonstrations. You know, you can shout out a bunch of slogans, but people can't do slogans. Slogans only go so far. You got to be able to talk back and forth with the person you're trying to convince, not just shout at them. So, here's what I propose. The constitutional amendment requires the president to step forward every 30 days on television across the table from a citizen for a 30-minute conversation, or that citizen's appointed proxy. If your name, you put your name in a hat, if your name gets picked out to speak with President Obama, you can appoint Noam Chomsky to speak for you, or Rush Limbaugh if he's your man. Anybody, or you yourself, can do it. You sit down across the table from the president. Same with the vice president. You have to do it in a separate forum, also on television, every 30 days. And then the same with every member of the Senate in their various states. They have to go back to their states or do it from the studio in Washington, whatever. The citizen could be in a studio in North Dakota speaking with the North Dakota senator in Washington on television every 30 days. So you can have this real dialogue between citizens and office holders. This is the only way to hold them accountable. Otherwise, they get to control every word that emanates from their office. Every word that emanates from a campaign of somebody who's running for office, they're all in complete control. You know, these town hall meetings are no good for dialogue. The news conferences, press conferences, that's no good. I mean, because the office holder, the president, for example, controls the list of who gets invited to these press conferences. And then once they all arrive and the press conference starts, the president himself controls who he's going to call on and who he's not. And then once he gets asked a question, he completely controls the situation because he gives you his sound bites that he's memorized about whatever issue we're talking about. Then there's no follow-up questions. So we don't learn anything new. All we get is propaganda out of the mouth of the president and every other office holder. That's how it goes everywhere. But if we had a conversation where you'd have to answer the questions, and you can ask him follow-up questions, say, well, what about this, and how about that, and shouldn't we do this differently, and do you promise to do that? And it's on television in front of 800 million people around the world, he's not going to be able to break that promise. So that's the way to hold him accountable in an effective way. That's the only effective way I can think of. So, you have to amend the Constitution. Now, don't think it's a hopeless case, because already this idea has seeped its way clearly into the White House itself. Yes, John Cullerton, a state senator from Illinois, represents one of the finer districts of Chicago. He's been in the Senate for almost 30 years, and he's now president of the Illinois State Senate. He presided over the removal of the governor, Blagojevich, recently. Anyway, on February the 12th, I think it was, of this year, Lincoln's Day, President Obama traveled to Chicago. He made a major speech on Lincoln's Day. And he said, he pointed to John Cullerton as part of his speech at the opening. He said, you see that man right there, John Cullerton? He is one of the sharpest legislators we have ever had. Quote unquote. All right, John Cullerton, for the last 3 years, has been working with this idea of this constitutional amendment I'm talking about, to require all federal office holders to come on television every 30 days, across the table from a citizen or that citizen's proxy. He likes the idea so much that he took it to Rahm Emanuel. Rahm Emanuel was his congressman at the time. They represented the same districts in Chicago. Emanuel in Washington and John Cullerton in Chicago, Illinois. And he said, I like your idea so much, Ed, that I'm going to propose to Rahm Emanuel that he hold demonstration dialogues here in the Chicago area with him and get his Democratic colleagues in the Congress to hold their dialogues with their citizens. So we can demonstrate to the people how effective this is. Well, by this time, by the time he really got the message to Emmanuel, Emmanuel was kind of busy with first Obama's presidential campaign, and then after the election, the transition into the White House, and then he was in the White House. But John Cullerton reported back to me, and I believe him because I've known him for 25 years personally. He reported back to me that Rahm Emanuel is intrigued by the idea. So we have a leg up here, ladies and gentlemen. Let's go. Let's use it. Let's go after your congressman. Go after your senator. Go after the president himself. Say, let's amend this Constitution. Let's amend it so we can have real dialogue. And once we have real dialogue, then we can come to some understandings about what the hell is going on. Why are we in such a military mode? Why are we giving every penny to the banks that they ask for? Why all this abuse and suffering going on needlessly? Why this? Why aren't we willing to take care of people when they're sick? This country is either going to take care of people or not take care of people. We have to come to a decision. The only way we're going to ever come to a decision is if we have a national discussion. We need a conversation going on that everybody can participate in by listening and talking with their friends about it. And if your name gets picked out of the hat, you yourself could be across the table from Barack Obama. Talking this way. Talking common sense. Like, let's get it together here before we all slide further and further into the ditch and global warming takes us over. We have some emergencies here and nobody's acting like it. We've got to talk seriously, and we have to talk now. So that's what you need to get hold of your friends and your members of Congress and the president himself. Write to him, email, Twitter, whatever you do to get in touch. Get in touch. And give him this message that we need this amendment to the Constitution, so that we'll finally have real democracy in this country. Because otherwise, all we have now is legalized bribery in the Congress. They're all taking this money, and they represent the corporations. They don't represent us. We need to be represented in Congress. Maybe for the first time in this country. This country was started on the backs of slaves. We all know that. It's not a good start. And look what it brought us in the middle of the 19th century. A horrible civil war. We have debt slaves now, all over this country, all over the world, put in debt. Not because it's their own fault, but because the governments have manipulated the situation to keep them in debt, to keep them in slavery. That's really what the debt is. Our grandchildren are going to be paying for those robot bombs in Afghanistan. They're not even born yet, and they're going to be paying for them. Because we can't afford to do stuff like that. So, all right, that's my message. I got to quit. I'm too tired. Thank you very much.